Is there a book you've gifted more than any other?
Lots of questions. So I gifted my company 3 books recently. One is the one Oliver Seidler wrote, Renegade.
Rules for Renegades.
There you go. One of them is a book by the guy who took over Ford, Alan Mulally, called The American Icon. I bought 20 copies of each and gave them all out to people on my staff. And the other one is Succeeding When You're Supposed to Fail. It's a very thin book. It took weeks to get 20 copies of it. It's awesome. I love those. Those books are great. I love the book Radical Honesty. There's another book called Radical Candor that's actually a little bit more PC or PG. That's equally as good. But those are books that I gift a lot.
What was the book, the American Icon? What was so powerful about that book that you gave it to your staff?
So do you know who Alan Mulally is?
I don't.
All right. So he was Ford. He was with Boeing. He wasn't CEO of Boeing. He was like COO or some high up at Boeing, very high up. This is early 2000s. Ford's going through hell. They're basically out of money. Everything's broken. Like the company's about to go bankrupt. It's a freaking mess. Do you know the only company that didn't take a bailout from the U.S. government on the auto?
It's Ford.
It was Ford. Because they hired the right guy 5 years before there was this problem. So he did all of this stuff. He worked with the United Auto Workers Association. He worked with the Ford family. There's a ton of legacy money there. And when you work with families that have had money for hundreds of years, there's some mismanagement. So it's a mess. It's kind of fraught. He had a bad culture, a lot of bad decision making. People who were afraid of admitting failure because they were afraid they were going to get fired. So he did a few things that I thought were incredible. First, he was insanely confident. He came in, it reads like a thriller. He came in, I read it in like a pool over a weekend. And my friend Ian is, he's a big, anything from Detroit he loves. He grew up in Detroit. So he told me about it. But he came in with confidence and people were giving him a bunch of crap. Ford's tough to figure out. And he said, yeah, I get it. It's complicated. It's a car. He goes, you do realize I used to work at a place where if there was a screw or a bolt out of line, the plane came flying out of the sky. I get the stakes. And he would walk away. He encouraged team. He encouraged communication. He encouraged talking. He encouraged the stoplight. We use the stoplight in our business. Do you use the stoplight in your business?
I do not use the stoplight.
You know what it is?
I imagine this is like, hey, we blow the whistle, like everyone needs to stop right now.
Red, green, yellow.
Yeah.
Right? So red, yellow, green. Everything in our business is coded in 4 colors. There's green, which is good. Now, I work with a guy named Daniel Marcos, who's from Mexico, and I don't know if this is a thing in English, but they have what's called super green in Spanish. So sometimes we'll use super green if it's really good, but it's meaning exceeding goals. But green, things are good. Yellow, problem. I've introduced orange. Orange means it's trending towards red. It's not red yet, but it's trending there, and red is there's a massive problem. So we use this as a score piece in many, many things in my business. 15 people have walked up to me reading the book. They're like, did you get that from this book? I'm like, yeah, it's a great book. So we use that in our business every single day. The first person to go into a meeting and score something in red was the guy who ultimately replaced Mulally. And he became CEO of Ford. He came in, he's like, this is a major problem. And Mulally was pissed. Nobody was coding everything red because the culture used to be, don't talk about your problems. He's like, you're going bankrupt. You got problems. Like, talk to me about the problems. And everybody was just petrified. So I can't remember his name. I think it was Fields. That guy came in, it was in red. He goes, Mulally stood up and clapped. He was like, this is incredible. This is great. This is leadership. And he clapped, and like everybody was dumbfounded because it's completely opposite of the culture that Ford had before that. Fields went through the problem. He talked about it. Mulally said, thank you for sharing. Who's dealt with this problem? Someone in Europe had dealt with this problem 8 years earlier with some car over there. It's like, boom, you two are meeting. Solve it. Solve the problem. Next meeting, there was more red, more red. More red. Ultimately, what ended up happening is there was a ton of red and it started to go to yellow and green. And then 5 years later, when the entire auto industry goes to hell in a handbasket and literally the U.S. government was handing out checks so people would buy cars, so the auto industry didn't go out of business. What happened? Ford didn't need a bailout because they did all this incredible work on Ford.
Yeah.
It's an awesome story.
Yeah, definitely need to check that out. So I want you to think about a thought you want to leave the listeners with while I make a couple of announcements.
Okay.
Guys, if you got value today, please like, subscribe, share, comment. It helps us help more people. And then in a week and a half, we got an all-day sales training. If you guys are interested, click the link below, send me a DM. And then we got Nick Elrud coming in, I believe, from Boston.
Boston, I know Nick.
Yeah, coming in next week to talk about his business in what I've heard is also another crazy market.
Yep.